What fetish did you think you had, but turned out not to be the case after you tried it? Sort of a cheating fetish, i.e., a girl cheats on someone to have sex with me. However, it was a fetish in regards that I knew it had excited me in prospect, but actually having it occur horrified me. The problem here is I didn't know I tried it until I did. When I worked with a girl at one point, we had become close, and I had helped her get a GED and start some school. I was dating someone else at the time, and so was she, but I had told her about this fetish before. 5+ years later, she had moved away, but was visiting where I was at and suggested we get together. I was no longer dating, and when she gave off the vibes it wasn't just getting together to catch up, I had asked her if she was still with the guy from prior, and she denied it. So we had a pretty good time, like a full 3 days just screwing or honestly lounging around in each other's company. The surprise came towards the end of the 3 days when she asked me if I liked getting a fetish crossed off, and I was confused and asked what, and she dropped that she wasn't single and was married to the guy I knew prior. Suffice to say, I had a sort of panic attack and got really freaked out, because internally, especially if I feel I did something wrong to someone or if an action I had done against someone, how would I feel if it was done to me? And immediately imagine such a circumstance. She was pretty taken aback when I yelled at her, and she chalked it up as something she wanted to do for me, but didn't want to jeopardize my relationship I had in the past. She didn't seem to get why it was a big deal. The years I had known this girl, she had never done anything so off and drastic. And when I tried to find a reason from her, did she not like the guy anymore? Was it a bad marriage? She denied it all and said she was actually in a comfortable spot with him, and they were currently working on having their first child together. To this day, I haven't talked to her really meaningfully. The girl I knew had never shown this type of behavior. She was very sweet and had a pretty rough upbringing, but she was a lovely person. She did worry I would tell her husband, and I probably should have, but when I thought of what she went through, this would have probably ended her marriage. I wouldn't be able to be with her, not after this. I didn't want to ruin what she had built, so I didn't say anything. It was cowardly thinking, really, but if she was serious about her partner and this child prospect, she wouldn't do anything else to jeopardize it. If she wasn't, then she would ruin her marriage without my help. As far as I know, she is still married, and she did have a child with that guy. I have a giantess fetish. I absolutely would love to experience what it's like to be shrunk down to 3 inches tall, picked up into her hands and kept as a pet by now what would be a giant woman. Having her taking me out with her on coffee dates with all her friends and showing me off to everyone, all wanting to hold me and check out this awesome shrunken human pet that she has. I could do all sorts of cool stuff with her. Paint her nails intricately, sit on her boobs while watching a movie, snuggle up into her soft walk palm. I'd not have to worry about anything. I'd have a simple life. Of course, I've never tried it because, laws of physics, but I am pretty sure if I had to experience it in reality, I'd hate it for many reasons. First, I'm scared shitless of heights. She would be the size of a skyscraper equivalent, and I'm being picked up and dangled around by feeble hands. Chances of being dropped are high. As well as beautiful giant women, everything else is giant. Houseflies, dogs, cats, cockroaches, old men, all of which may end up interacting with me. Ugh. I would lose my dignity, my freedom. I would be reliant on someone else to give me food, water, and keep me safe. I would no longer have control of my own life whatsoever. Like, literally in real life, I hate being told what I can and can't do, and hate having other people control my life. And again, just the sheer danger I would be in every day. I'd risk being swooped up by a giant bird just for being outside. And even with the best will and intentions, I could easily die or get trapped somewhere and lost. As I don't want friends and family involved in this, I would never see them again. Unless it's temporary, in which case that would be a lot better. So yeah, probably would discover the hard way that I really prefer to be full size. In my youth, I got really into the rough sex porn, the kind where the girl's eye makeup is running down her face and her skin's all red cause you slapped her ass or tits in the same spot over and over. Rough stuff. Anyways, figured since I was super into the porn, I wanted to physically try it. I was friends with benefits with a young woman who I talked about this with, and she was like, yeah man, let's give it a go. I enjoy that shit, so I'll bust your cherry. Side note, she had multiple friends with benefits and I was the most vanilla of them. So we did, and it got rough, and while I could see she was getting off on it, I was not. I did manage to stay hard and keep going, but during round 3 of the night, I was 19, I spanked her already raw ass cheeks with a belt, and she started legit crying from the pain. I was like, nope, we're done, I can't. And she asked me to keep going. So I gave her another crack at the belt, and she yelped, and my little dude tucked its head in like a turtle in its shell and would not come out after that. So yeah, needless to say, I did not enjoy IRL rough sex, and I did not enjoy the porn after that either. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This is more of a misunderstanding than me thinking I had a certain fetish. When I was 15 to 17, I was always willing to draw for others. Well, it turns out a majority of my friends wanted me to draw characters eating each other. Assuming this was meant to be weird in a funny way, plus I was a dumbass and didn't know what vor was, I shared several drawings of the same scenario. Despite people getting mad at me for drawing stuff like this, my friends kept asking for more art. It wasn't until I found out they all had a vor fetish that I realized my art was being used for masturbation bait. My art wasn't even good either, so I don't know how I got their rocks off with this shit. I don't even have anything against people with a vor fetish. What I hate is people going after mostly underage artists and using them for free fetish art. Not to mention, a bunch of people were convinced I had a vor fetish and would draw anything and everything with that scenario. It's one of the many reasons I don't miss DeviantArt. A lot of kinks are like this, to be honest. Sex in public feels rushed and not worth it, unless you give no fuck whatsoever about being caught. Otherwise, in a large urban area, there is no real way to stay hidden long enough to really enjoy the sex. Anal is nothing like in porn. It requires too much work and prep to be done safely, unless you hate your partner. Outdoors sex is also bad outside of porn. Nature just does not cooperate. Kneeling down on hard cement ground, leaves, twigs, etc., always hurts. Bending over logs, rocks, etc. also not the best for comfort, which means enjoyability is limited. It's just one of those things that looks better on the screen than in real life. Food is okay, but after you have a lot more cleanup. All kinks feel like extra steps with no payoff and more work to do after and before. Just getting an orgasm in the most comfortable, boring way is good enough, to be honest. I thought I was a submissive guy. I wanted to be restrained and let my partner take the reins and just order me to please them. Turns out, when put into a submissive position, I will crack jokes non-stop until my dominant partner has given up. The moment I realized it, I was being ridden by a woman who had forewent any foreplay. Because I was young and bad at it, and she says to me seductively, "Yeah, you like that pussy?" To which I responded with all the grace of Groucho Marx ashing his cigar, "Well, I certainly don't hate it." She'd given it her best effort, but in the moment she started giggling and leaned her body forward in such a way that it let out a queef that sounded like air being released from an overinflated balloon. Turns out I'm more of a top and just love doing things to my sexual partners. Extreme sadism. I grew up abused physically and had a power complex due to that, which has thankfully been remedied through therapy. I met a girl on a fetish hookup site, and while I liked choking her lightly, she asked me to slap her. I slapped her and immediately went soft and felt extreme guilt. She kept telling me it was okay and she wanted it, but I just couldn't do it. I just can't hurt a woman. It makes me feel like the biggest piece of shit. Thankfully, I'm with the love of my life now, and the only sadism that me and her both enjoy is her being choked during sex. And not the completely cutting air and blood choking, it's more of a move when you're told to kind of thing. She loves being dominated, but not when pain is involved. And we're very careful. My ex wanted to do full fuck toy play. I had complete control. I could make her, I don't know, walk on a treadmill all day just because I told her to, and then fuck her in the ass with minimal lube and no warm up with no protest. She loved it, every minute of it. She told me she treasured the pain of sitting through a ripped asshole after a session. She said the only problem was how uncontrollably horny serving me made her. It just made her want to jump my bones vanilla style. I jumped at this chance. After 3 days, I ended it. I loved her, not this weird sex robot. And hurting her? Forget it. Not my bag, it turned out. And then we did almost the inverse, where I served her within reason while she recuperated. And that's how I discovered what I am into. I don't know if this will fit or not, but I've always wanted someone to eat my booty. I'm a woman and have a friend who gets her buns eaten by every guy she is with, casual or in a relationship, as well as her toes sucked. I have never had any boyfriend ever attempt either. I'm pretty clean and pay extra attention to my soft places, don't have stinky feet or anything. She will mention that the guys did it, and I'm like, damn, nobody has ever even tried. Our body count is very different, no shade, so now I think it's a numbers game and she may have had more opportunities than I do. So I just came to the fake conclusion that I won't like it anyways, so I don't feel I'm missing anything. Am I missing anything? Anal. No one tells you how uncomfortable it is, even if you go slow and use a lot of lube. To me, it doesn't even feel good, it's just overwhelming. After, for like 3 hours, your butthole doesn't remember what to do and you just leak, even if you clean up thoroughly. It was the only way my ex would come, so unfortunately at the time, I was doing it often. One time, I was just out of the shower and about to get ready for class, and a huge glob of lube slipped out my ass and splattered on my floor. Decided not to go because I was so mortified. Glad my new boyfriend is okay with not doing that. I had a pseudo-romantic interest with someone who tried to get me RPing as a furry online. I kinda was into it, but the more that I tried it out, the more I came to realize that I was only doing it because I liked her and didn't want to disappoint her expectations. I realized I was putting on a facade just to please someone else, and I think it was doing more harm than good. So I broke off the relationship, most certainly not in the healthiest of ways. But that's not a topic I want to bring up here. For what it's worth, I'm not a furry. Threesome felt pretty awkward to me. It was with a past girlfriend and one of her friends who thought I was really attractive, so she agreed to share. I guess I like the exclusiveness of a relationship, kept crossing my mind that if she were willing to share me with her friend, then she might not be as loyal as I think she is. Turns out that I was right about a year after that experience. She didn't know what loyal meant. I'm sure it would be different if it were two girls that I had no romantic connection with, but I've yet to get that opportunity. All I can really think of is rough stuff. Handcuffs weren't comfortable, nor was not being able to caress my partner. Appealing roughness through words was definitely a no-go because I'm very sensitive in that regard, not from just anyone, but specifically someone as close and intimate as my partner. Hard spanking was also a no. Light, non-painful is a-okay though. I just came to terms with the fact that I'm not a bad bitch kinky bottom. I'm more of a please continue to give me praises and head pats when I make you feel good, because that makes me feel good kinda chick. I was 23 years old at the time and knew this older couple that was maybe around 40. They invited me over for drinks, dinner, and just to hang out. Towards the end of the night, the guy wanted to watch me have sex with his girlfriend. She was all into it, and so was I at first. In the middle of it, I got really weirded out with him staring at me and his girlfriend have sex. I couldn't really stay hard with him sitting on a chair in the corner smoking numerous cigs while watching his girlfriend and I go at it. I had two fantasies. Well, really one, and the other was fulfilling someone else's fantasy, and I thought I'd be into it. My girlfriend at the time wanted me to dominate her. Not quite a rape fantasy, but wanted me to throw her down and physically rip her clothes off. I guess more of just rough sex. We tried one night, I kept apologizing and ruined the mood. That shit wasn't for me. The other was something a lot of men want, a blowjob by two girls at the same time. I lucked into this one and it was glorious. 10 of 10 would recommend. Male, male, female, threesome. I'm one of the M's. Ex-girlfriend and I got drunk with another male friend. One thing led to another, and it was so hot and we all loved it. Naturally, it became a regular thing. After the 5th or 6th time, it became so stale and almost forced that at one point I actually left them to it for 10 minutes to go and get a pack of cigarettes before somewhat reluctantly rejoining for the ending because I was bored. Learned my lesson. Organic fantasies are hot, but don't force it if it isn't going that way naturally. Not a fetish I thought I had, but rather finding out that I didn't enjoy this fetish on accident. Boyfriend and I were doing missionary and my hair was sprawled on the bed. His hands were pulling my hair every time he moved, and I gestured for him to move them away from my hair. I probably should have just verbally told him, but I was too busy enjoying it maybe? And he thought I was motioning for him to choke me. I was gasping for air and flailing my arms like those car dealership inflatables. Yeah. Never doing that again. Not me, but my then girlfriend, now wife. Early in our relationship, she told me she wanted to be lightly choked during sexy times. Not really my thing, but I tried my best. It turns out what she actually meant was that she wanted to give it a try, not that it was something she knew she was into. And she didn't tell me that it turned out she didn't like it as much as she thought. So I kept doing it for like 6 months, all while neither of us wanted me to be doing it. Communication, people. I thought I was into really rough sex because the girl I was with was really into it. The only thing that I liked about it was lightly choking her a bit or some light hair pulling, but she had more of a grape fantasy type thing. In fact, she had me sodomize her with a loaded gun. Twice. One time she wanted the reverse Kurt Cobain where she wore nothing but a flannel and had me shove a shotgun up her ass. Turns out I'm very vanilla and much more into just plain ol' missionary. I thought because I have dominant energy in relationships and enjoy things like pegging guys and shoving my fingers in their mouth, that I would enjoy topping or being dominant. Turns out I am not a top or a switch at all. Taking the lead gives me horrible anxiety and embarrassment, and I cannot dirty talk from that role. Totally opposite from my personality and how I flirt. I get a lot of please step on me style DMs, and I'm like, what if I want to be the one getting stepped on? Fetishes can be way more specific than people think. You really have to build the fantasy surrounding your kink into the act. Into spanking? 1. Are you a naughty little girl being punished by daddy? 2. Are you a pet being trained? 3. Are you a slave being conditioned for bondage? 4. Are you a disintegrated red shirt who has actually been beamed to a subterranean alien dungeon? 5. Are you an insubordinate secretary who Mr. Gray is correcting? Just saying, kinks are complicated. Speak up or I won't get it right. When I was pregnant the second time, I got really into sexy breast milk videos. Knowing I was going to be nursing, I highly anticipated masturbating and having sex and letting my milk drop freely. After I had the baby, I completely lost interest in it. Even in the bathtub where cleanup was unnecessary, I was just annoyed by lactating unless it was to feed my baby. Even had sex with a bra on every time until after I stopped nursing. I thought I was into more hardcore BDSM stuff, but then I realized I am more into just doing stuff that makes people happy and like being around me. I don't like being paddled and beaten, but if someone I sleep with wants me to do that and clearly likes it, then I'm fine with it as long as I'm not doing legitimate damage to them. So I went from hardcore bottom to lightly toasted service top/switch. At certain times, degrading. He called me a little whore, and I almost cried. I guess it's just that one word or certain phrases that bother me. I want to say choking, but I know that I do like it if it's done right, which has only happened once, and that was how I discovered it. But now, right now, I don't think my current partner knows how to do it. I am trying to think, but I am unable. Whenever this question is asked, I think about that guy who had his girlfriend shit on him, only to discover he wasn't into it at all. Also, I would like to clarify, I don't mean the guy who hired a known scat porn actress who shat in his mouth, but the other guy who had persuaded his girlfriend to do a Cleveland steamer on him, only to find it to be awful but too embarrassed to tell her. Not really a fetish, but the idea of showering with my girlfriend at the time was so appealing to me. She got hot water, and what I got was ricocheted off of her. No part of it was enjoyable. And now we've been married 25 plus years, and she suggests it once in a while, and I'm like, nope. Every drop of hot water that comes out of the shower is mine and only mine. I think people need to be taught early on that there is a massive difference between fantasy and reality, and you need to be super introspective before you transition from fantasy to reality. I guarantee you there are things that you find arousing enough to masturbate to, but actually doing them would feel horrible. Don't just assume that because it arouses you, it will be awesome to actually do. My ex was really open-minded and was happy when I told her I wanted to sub and cross-dress with her, only to discover that I only like it in porn and would much rather be dominant and masculine in real-life sexy times. Happy she let me see that I'm pretty gay with the porn, but my sex life is almost 100% straight. Always fancied seductively licking Nutella off my wife's body, but a few minutes and one breast in, I realized it was getting very messy and quite sickly. We accomplished nothing more than a quick shower and changing the sheets, chalked it down to experience, and settled down to a cup of tea. We've never talked about it since. As a guy, anal. It's not an improvement over vaginal sex. If your partner is into it, then cool. It can be fun and enjoyable, but only if both parties really want to. If the woman isn't really into it, but trying to be accommodating, it feels very rapey. If that turns you on, seek counseling.